my channel. So today, as you guys can tell by the title, I'll be talking about crash pads. Now, I'm in an apartment right now, but previously I did stay in 2 different crash pads. If you guys have seen my Crashpad horror story, if you have not seen that video, make sure to check it out. There will be a link in the description box. Today I'm going to be talking about the second crash pad I stayed at. So if you guys are interested, you want to know more about crash pads, or just what to do or where to live after training, keep on watching. Okay, so before I begin and show you guys a little tour of the second crash pad that I stayed at, there's a difference between hot bed or cold bed. So what a cold bed is, it's essentially your bed. So you pay for your room, or you pay for your bed and it's your bed, no one else sleeps in your bed. That's what a cold bed is. Versus what a hot bed is, it's where, so let's say in a month's time, you're only going to be at the crash pad for 5 of those days. So for 5 of those days, or maybe a week straight, that's your bed, but then outside of that, somebody else will use your bed. So that's pretty much the difference between a hot bed and a cold bed. For the most part, I've only seen crash pads where there's cold beds, where it's like your room or your bed. But if you ever come across like something that says hot bed, just know that you're sharing a bed. There's also crash pads that have your own room. The second crash pad that I stayed at, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and one of the rooms one girl stayed in. It was either 1 or 2. It was either 1 person was in the room or 2 people versus 4. I also wanted to congratulate the very first class that started training this year in 2019 for the company that I work for. I know a lot of you guys have been asking me about crash pad or living situation, because a lot of you have gotten your base to come to New York, and that's super exciting. So if you guys saw my previous crash pad video, you know it wasn't the best crash pad, and at that point I felt like I was working out of JFK more than I was LaGuardia. And my previous crash pad, my first crash pad, it was walking distance from LaGuardia, and at that time I didn't have my car, so it kind of was a hassle to get to JFK. So I thought, why don't I move closer to JFK if I'm always working there? So I started looking, and I would look on Facebook groups. So there's like Flight Attendant Career Connection, that's a huge group. But there's also others that may be called Crashpad, or you know, roommates in New York. You just have to look for Facebook groups. And also there's a website called Crashpad411.com, so make sure you check out that website as well. So I remember I was on Facebook on one of the groups, and this woman posted about a crash pad near LaGuardia, or near JFK. So I messaged and I was like, hey, I'm interested. She then proceeded to Facebook message me, and we were talking through Facebook. She told me it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, there's cold beds or there's private room. I told her I would be interested in the private room. So 2 of the rooms had 4 beds in it, 2 sets of bunk beds, and then the private room had a single person in there. So the bunk beds, or the cold beds, were $300 each with a $150 deposit, or the room where it's your whole room to yourself was $700. So of course I did the $300 option, and a tip that I would give you guys, something that I did not do, and one of the girls at the crash pad, my previous crash pad, we're still friends, she's like, you're crazy. I did not see the place before I said yes, I'm interested. I gave her my deposit, because when I was messaging her, she's told me, she's like, hey, I just spoke to a girl this morning, she already got 1 bed, so I only have 1 left. And at that time, because of my current situation that I just really wanted to get out of my previous crash pad, and I really didn't have time to go and see the place. But she gave me really nice pictures of the house, and I just told her, I'm interested, I'll give you my deposit, and we'll go from there. So I did not see the place before I gave my deposit, and I would definitely recommend, if you can, to see the place, because anybody can, you know, show you a nice picture, but it's different when you see it in person. So I stayed at this crash pad only for 1 month because when I moved into that place, I still kept in contact with my friends that were at the crash pad that I just left, and they had decided a few weeks later that they wanted to look for an apartment. And they asked me if I would be interested in getting an apartment with them, and I was like, you know what, I need more space. A crash pad isn't supposed to be meant to be like your place 24/7. It's supposed to be meant, you know, you work your trips, you need a place to crash, to sleep, and have your belongings, but not a lot. At crash pads, there's not really enough space for, you know, a whole walk-in closet, a whole dresser, a desk. It's a shared space. I also wanted to talk a little bit about what not to do in a crash pad. So you want to be as clean and as courteous and as nice as possible, because you're in, you know, an apartment, a house with various other people. They may work for the same airline as you, they may not. And you just don't want to be that person that goes away for a week and leaves, you know, your things or area messy, and then you get back and it's just be courteous and clean up after yourself. So I just wanted to go through the messages between me and, I'll call her T because her name starts with T. She was super sweet. She literally was the sweetest person, the nicest person that I met in New York. It was her and her husband. They had this crash pad, and it was a house. And the whole top floor was the crash pad, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and the bottom was where they lived. So it was really nice. Anything that you needed, you know, she was right there. She would answer any questions that you had, and she was super sweet. This particular crash pad, it was amazing. It was so much better than my last one. The only thing was it was in a really bad area. It was in Jamaica Queens, and I had just moved to New York. I didn't know what areas were good, what areas were bad, but the area that this crash pad was in was really bad. I remember a time where me and like 3 of the girls, we went to walk to the supermarket to get like stuff to make tacos, and just everyone was staring at us that were outside trying to talk to us. This one guy grabbed one of the girls, like he was like trying to talk to her, get her attention. He like grabbed her arm, and that's just so unnecessary, and it was just a really sketchy place. But the crash pad itself, inside and out, was brand new. Everything was nice. I'm going to show you guys in just a second, so just keep on watching. So I would say the 2 most important questions when you're talking to the person in charge of the crash pad, or the landlord, or whatever you want to call it. Obviously, one is price. You want to know the pricing, you want to know the location, and I also really thought it was super important to ask if there was a limited amount of days you could stay at the place. So what that I asked her was, I said, also, is there a certain number of days I can only stay for the month? I'm asking because I know there's certain rules with some crash pads. So with some crash pads, they'll say like, oh, you can only stay here 15 days out of the month. But when you're on reserve, you don't know how often you're going to be used. So I would just make sure to kind of ask that question. At my first crash pad, the guy that owned the house, he didn't care what you brought, how many bags you had, how many days you stayed. He just didn't care, and didn't really have a lot of strict rules. But with this crash pad, there was rules. She like sent this whole list of just like how to be like clean and what to do and what not to do. She was very thorough. Another big question that I would ask is, how much of a notice do you have to give the person before you move out? So with my first crash pad, I think he said a month. Like if we just give him a month's notice, then you get your deposit back. But I ended up not getting my deposit back because of the whole big situation. And then with this crash pad, she said 2 weeks. Was it 2 weeks? Wait, no, sorry, I got that mixed up. So with my first crash pad, he just wanted like a 2-week notice, and then with this crash pad, she wanted a month. Which I feel like a month, when you're a flight attendant, you might be constantly moving around, and I feel like a month is too long of a notice, because I feel like it's pretty simple to find another person to replace you, because I feel like there's people always looking for crash pads. So So because of that reason, I did not get my deposit back, and I only stayed there for 1 month. So if I would have gotten my deposit back, I would have just spent the $300, but instead I spent $300 plus the $150, which is $450. Okay, so let's get into what the Crashpad looked like itself. So first you start off by walking up steps. So we had to lug our luggage all the time up the steps, and then it brought you into the living room. It had TV, it had a fan, really big windows, and then there we have the dining area. And then there was also a closet by the dining room table where people put like their winter coats or any extra luggage. I lived in this house full of Delta girls. I think there was only 2 of us from the company that I worked for. So I was pretty much there by myself a lot because the Delta girls, they worked all the time. That was the outside area. And at this point I did have my car. And there was a little note on top of the trash just to make sure you took it out when it's full. I think we had to take out the trash like on Wednesdays and Sundays or something like that. And here we have the nice kitchen that pretty much always stayed clean. And then we also had a recyclable basket as well. So at this crash pad there was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath like I stated. So there was a total of 8 girls, I believe. No, there was a total of 9 because one of the girls had her own room. And that's the thing with crash pads, is the fridge is always going to be packed when you're living with 9 people to one apartment. This was the hallway. This was the restroom that I used. It's pretty small. Typical New York bathrooms are really small. But it was nice, it was clean. And then now we're going to enter through my room, which was room number 1. This closet had all of our cleaning supplies, and T came once a week and she would clean the place. But obviously if we made a mess ourselves, we would have to clean up after it. So in my room number 1, I slept at the top bunk. Top right bunk was my bed. And for the most part, the month that I was there, I only saw the other girls in this room like 2 or 3 times. And the red bag is mine with the bin behind it. It's where I put all of my belongings. And then we had this closet, but it was hard to put stuff in because there was one huge suitcase in it. But it was a really nice room, really clean. The beds were so comfy, way comfier than my first crash pad. And having a comfy bed is really important when you come back super tired from a trip. So yeah, that was pretty much what my second crash pad looked like. As I stated, the inside, everything was brand new. So in that sense, it was better than the first crash pad. But the location, I would say my first crash pad was better at location. So just keep in mind when you're looking for a place, look at location, look at pricing, make sure you check out the place before you give a deposit or anything. Get as much information as you can. And when you go to training, if you're not already in training, if there's a lot of people in your class that are getting sent to the same base, at that point you can, talk around and say, hey, what are you going to do for after training? Are you going to commute? Are you going to look for an apartment? Are you going to look for a crash pad? And that's pretty much how I ended up in my first crash pad. One of the girls in my training class, she got all the information, and I would say about 10 of us ended up all in the first crash pad. But yeah, I hope this video was super thorough. If you guys have any questions at all, make sure to comment down below. I'll get back to all of you guys. If you enjoyed this video, if it was super helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time.